What is one of your most traumatic life experiences? And somehow we're going to mark Mr. Hardy first. Please share with the
Well,
nation.
to date, this is the most to me, still to this day. Uh, Getting a phone call saying I think I'm pregnant. Uh, Boy, I remember it like yesterday. I was like, "What? There's no way. There's no way in hell. Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so." So I went and bought every pregnancy test I thought I could bring. I just go in the stores on the way to stores, on the way to stores. And my sister Shan is in the comments. She could attest to this. I had her taking my baby mama test. Like, this can't be right. This just can't be right. This just can't be right. Because at that point in my life, I just felt like my life was kind of planned out. Like, even though it wasn't going always expected, I thought that I wasn't too far off track, that I could just get right back home and everything would be okay. But I think that just when I found it sunk in. I think a lot of people don't know this. I think I wasn't as scared as people thought. I was more hurt that my mom was a single mom all my life, like all my life until I got grown. She got married, but I felt like, man, I just really let my mama down. Like my mama did so much to raise me, so much to put me in a better position, and now I have to look this lady in her face and tell her that she was already working two, three jobs to take care of me, Papa, Mark, Brad, and all the other kids who stayed at my house. But now I'm finna have a child as a child. And I think that me looking in her eyes when I told her that and just seeing the hurt and like, what? Like, I just, like, you know what I'm saying? From that day though, I knew that no longer do I ask my mama for anything. And I put myself in this situation, so I got to figure it out. I did a lot of figuring out the wrong way, but nobody can never say that I was not trying to figure it out the best way I could, because I knew at that point it was not my mom's fault no more, but my life was in mine. I wanted to be a man, and so I had to figure out a way to be a man without dragging her down. So if you ask me my most traumatic, and I'm gonna say it's traumatic because I was a child with a child, and under excruciating circumstances of birth. Let's just say that it was everything that could go wrong. What did go wrong in that situation? But man, at the end, it turned out pretty good. But to this day, I preach this to all the young guys out there, to all my fellow friends, and I'm an advocate, for child support, Young Fathers Anonymous, and all the other social clubs of black men that drags you down to the system. I've been through them all, so I think sometimes the test part really goes into your heart, but until it becomes a testimony. But that's my traumatic part. Having a baby as a baby.
Mm.
What you
Oh,
got
okay.
to?
All right. I guess it's my turn. I
Yep.
will say this, guys. Being older than y'all, a lot of it's certain stuff that I told y'all later on. But I will say I had so many traumatic life experiences that I had to figure out which one was the one that probably was the winner. And I will say, to God's blessing and grace, most of the traumatic life experiences that I incurred actually shaped me for the good. Once you learn that lesson, man, that'll change your life. And then you'll understand why you're here and why you're who you are right now. So I learned how to take a lot of those moments and, work through them and find the lesson in them, especially the pass down to you guys. But I would say probably the one of the most traumatic life experiences, the one I'm still dealing with. My situation is unique where my mom was a corporate America giant, so she was about working. She had me at 16, just like her mother had her at 16, and the cycle. And my dad was a player, pimp, actual damn pimp, and my probably not the best decision to date him, mama, but that's the typical story. High school cheerleader, dude that's riding around in the car, flashy. I don't know how good looking he was or not, but he's funny and charismatic. They have a child. My mom's determined to be somebody, so she goes back to work. My dad, he never figured it out. He was still gonna be hard times. But the most traumatic life experience came in the sense that my grandmother told my mother, "You had him for me." So most of my life, that is the person that I call mom. You know, that bond is with my grandmother. From that's all I remember being with my grandmother. That's mom, and I actually felt such an attachment to her that, like, when through all the abandonment, rejection, and all that stuff, feeling like you're not wanted. Because I would go to my mom, she was like, "Ask your daddy." Go to my daddy, ask your mama. Grandma was always there in that little piece to take care of me. So I'm like, at some point, I'm like, this is my house. So if you look at my grandmother's pictures, my dad is on the picture with me as a baby, but I grew up like a brother and sister situation, like many houses. But the traumatic life experiences was when I got older, I just wanted to take care of that lady. And I did not know what cancer was. And that woman said she wanted to live forever. My grandma went to the doctor all the time. And my granddaddy smoked cigarettes, but she went and they found breast cancer. And she went through the treatment and they said she was going to be okay. And I just went through life spoiling her, buying her stuff, giving her money. I just felt like such a wonder taking care of my mom. She had the surgery and found out later that they missed some parts of it. And the thing that I deal with to this day is because nobody told me. And she made sure everybody kept that secret from me, like the baby. And it wasn't until she died that I just changed. Like until she passed, I love Riviera Beach. Zaya tell you we was there every day eating dinner, hanging out. I was a mama's boy like Jody, our baby boy. But the minute she passed, when they rolled out my house, it was like a spell was over, and I never seen this city the same way. So I still deal with that every day. That's why when I hear people talk about them losing their mom, I get it because there's nothing that you can just get over overnight. Some people gonna deal with that until the day they die. And me trying to be a man because you're supposed to be this tough, tough man, I didn't grieve. I didn't even know what grieving was. I just processed through it. And it wasn't until my wife at the time made me understand that I never grieved. But on her birthday, I would change. Holidays, I would change. So that's why I tell people to love your mothers and appreciate all the time that you have. So that's my traumatic experience, brother.
It's onions over there, bro.
Yeah, I
I
got
know the
you.
feeling.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
Okay. So
Well, well, okay. I go. Okay, so my brother was doing time, right? This is the first time he got locked up, and he had to sit, right? So I had to. He was locked up in Martin County. He was getting out. The day he was getting out, at 12. I said, I'm gonna come and pick him up. So I went and got him a party pack, something to smoke on, something to drink on, or whatever. Picked him up from the jail. For those who don't know, from Martin County Jail to 95 is a little long way. So he got to, get out of jail and tell you all the stories or whatever. So we had to hit 95, had to Palm Beach. Still, he's smoking, telling this story, everything like that. Then we get off the exit and he asked me where we going. And I say, to the hospital. He was like, for why? I was like, Mom dead. And I've never heard a sound. I've never heard, he made this sound like this it wasn't just a cry. It was like agony. And I can never forget the sound that he made. And I had to console my brother. And it was the worst thing because I never seen him affected like that. We had to go to the hospital, went up to get into that room. It seemed like it took forever, man. We got in there and I just seen her body sitting there. And we had to close the blanket over her and push her into the room where they took her. And that was like the most traumatic thing I ever had to deal with. But it didn't end there. Because when it happened, I told everybody don't put it on Facebook and nothing like that because my sister was, on vacation or whatever. So when she got home, me and my brother went and picked up from the airport, and the same thing. She's telling the story about her vacation and all that, and we, having the conversation, laughing. Then we get to the house, and she getting ready to get out the car. And I said, "Hold on." So I turned on the music, and I had to tell my sister, and it was like basically the same reaction. She didn't have that sound, but it's like life got taken out of her face. You could see it, just her face just dropped, and just the life came out of her. And so to have to do that 2 times, that was one of the most traumatic things I ever had to deal with, man. Just to have to tell, as the oldest, having to tell my brother, who didn't know because he was locked up, get him out of jail. Then my sister, who was on vacation, she didn't know, and I had to tell her. Boy, that was a tough one. So for me, that would have to be my most traumatic experience in my life. Zach, what about yours?
Shoot. My most traumatic experience, I think I too am still dealing and healing. I ain't done. So I can't really go into depth with it, but I will talk about what spawned from it and how I think it's affecting me, because I sat back and I listened to Horace's story, and I affectionately love Grandma as much because I was the spoiled when I actually booted Horace out the way once I came on the scene, and he would be upset, as most older brothers would be, because now you have a younger, brother that's in your spot and in your position. But with myself, I think, as we know, we get older. It's the circle of life. We're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? And most people will feel like death is gonna be like a traumatic thing for me. Fortunately for me, I did life insurance for a good number of years, so I had gotten used to speaking about death, helping families through those ordeals, and felt pretty good about myself. So it came up to bat. I was on deck, like they say. It was my turn. And my father, he went ahead and passed. And I prepared myself as mentally as possible for this situation, because I'm like, it's going to happen. It's coming up. And then it happens. And I dealt with it like a champ. I felt like went through everything, made sure that everything was good. That wasn't the trauma for me. It was, I think people say families change with deaths and funerals. Excuse me, with funerals and weddings, families change. Well, I always thought not my family, and it was my family that actually changed. The most traumatic experience for me is losing. I'm such a family man or family oriented person. I do almost everything for my family. I feel like my family is blue on both sides. All of my cousins, older and younger, look to me for advice, look to me for support or help with something, or just a joke, you know. And for me, not being able or just being shut off cold turkey sent me in a tailspin for a good while. Like Horace say, around my dad died the day before Thanksgiving. So what a Thanksgiving that was. A few days after my daughter's birthday, because hers is on the 18th, and about 4 days later, lights out. So I'm like, I'm dealing with the two. I'm trying to be happy for my daughter because, she turned another age. And then in the same sentence, I'm like, dang, my pops is gone. All right, I'm a trooper. I shot through. For your family to alienate you, not speak to you, not explain to you what the reason is why they won't speak, but just be angry with you, then you ain't do nothing. It messed me up. I don't care for holidays. Like all that family time. What's family? What's that? Some people that's gonna say they love you and then don't be there for you when the time comes for them to actually do the things that they say families does. So, like we talked about, all these cliche things that we grew up with, family over everything, family first. They showed me. Hell, I think I went a good while and nobody ever called and checked on me and said, "Well, Zay, you all right? I know your dad died. You know what I'm saying?" Nah, it was good old Zay got it. Zay all right. He's straight. He's smart. That was the one that really burnt me. He's smart. How the hell am I so damn smart? I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like a trick. And I had to deal with that and try to figure my way through it. It made me rough on certain avenues and edges when it comes to people, because I don't know how to deal with you. I don't know how to trust. I think that's a big part of my commitment issue. I don't trust that. You love me now for how long? And then until I do what? Are you gonna tell me, or are you gonna wait till surprise? And a lot of people in my life have done me the same way. All of a sudden, we'll be good. Oh, I love you. I never do this, and I never do that, and then they do it, and I be like, oh shit, here we go again. And I try my best to stay out of that rabbit hole. So when I see it, I'm darting the other way. I'm out of there because I don't never want to feel that feeling ever again in my life if I can so help it. And the crazy part about it is we have no control over it. But some weird way, I think that I do. And my friend above me can attest because he goes, Zay, you can't control it. All you can do is do your best. So I still deal with it because it don't make any sense to me. And I can't get a wrap around it to save my life. And I can't get a conversation to say, well, hey, at least know what I did. So then I could rest that night going, all right, well, damn, I did that. You know what I'm saying? Or at least attempt to try and apologize, just nothing. So that's that cutoff and that cancel culture that they be talking about that I think is total and utter bullshit. But a lot of people feel like that's the way to go about things, or I'm gonna ghost you or whatever. And I think that that is the most unmanly or unwomanly thing that you can do to a human, to do things like that. But people choose to do it, and we can't control their choice, and we can control how we act. And so that's the lesson that I learned from that traumatic experience, where you'll never ever hear me tell you that something happened to me because somebody did something to me. No, it was something that Zay did, 100%. But that's what it formed of me. Probably made me a better person, I think. And some people may say it didn't, and that's their opinion. And both of them gonna be right. But that's what I got for it.
Woo! I'm glad I'm drinking tonight because you guys have just sent me in the tailspin.